Hello, welcome. My name is Dr. Forrester Dean. I am a sports medicine chiropractor and physiotherapist practicing here in my lovely campus in Torrance, California. Thank you so much for joining me. Today we're going to be breaking down the various stretch routines for the Swiss ball. So remember, we talked about before in the workshop video that you can have the small 45 centimeter or the 55 centimeter ball. You don't need both. Actually, the larger one will double for the large one and the small one. And I recommend also that you watch the workshop on the Swiss ball so you can kind of get the backstory on stretching, what stretching is about, when to do it, how it works, and how it can benefit you. Okay, so let's go ahead and start with the seated series. And you may want to have a soft pad handy. You can also use a beach towel, you can use a pillow, or really anything soft if you feel like you need something underneath your knees, okay? So I'm just gonna set this over here to the side because we're gonna be doing seated. And the first thing that we're gonna do is the seated twist. Okay, so I'm gonna sit here on the front corner of the ball, which means I'm not gonna sit on the tippy top of the ball. Going to kind of nuzzle down here, and then if you remember, we're going to press into the hands to get some length into the spine. Take a big breath in and exhale in place. So remember, we're doing breath to motion. Big breath in, exhale in place. So what I'm doing right now is just elongating my spine and just kind of coming into what they would say in yoga is like a little pranayama practice, just a little breath practice to kind of center yourself into your Swiss ball stretch practice. Yeah. And don't panic if I close my eyes, because when I stretch, I am really, really, really relaxed, and I find that closing my eyes is really helpful for that, okay? So for more stability, you can walk the feet apart a little bit. If you want a little bit more of a challenge, you can park your feet and your knees together nice and tight. So the key thing here is to just start off being comfortable. You don't really want to challenge yourself with balancing while you're doing stretching at the same time. Okay, so let's just start here. So I'm going to reach around the side of my knee. I'm going to place my hand gently in the back, and then I'm just going to start by rolling the back shoulder back, and then I'm also just going to lengthen into my spine and get nice and tall. So in the very beginning, I'm not going to focus on getting really twisted immediately. So my favorite word is actually increments, right? So just little small bits of movement at a time. And curiously, increments is also how most injuries happen, right? Subthreshold microtraumas, or just little injuries that kind of gain up over time. Okay, and by the way, it's also how you heal, a little bit at a time. Okay, so let's get into the seated twist. So now I'm going to press my hand here, and I'm going to roll my shoulder back. I'm going to get nice and tall. I'm going to draw my belly in, and then I'm going to take a big breath in, and I'm going to exhale, and I'm going to gently gaze over my shoulder, pull my shoulder back, and create some space in my spine. And then I'm going to release that just a little bit. I'm going to take another breath in, exhale, inhale, exhale. Now I've made a habit, just keep going, out of not looking down, because I find when I look down, I tend to round my back and lose my nice long spine. And last one, take a big breath in and exhale, twist. Now at this point, we're just gonna kind of hold this, and we're gonna do some little baby pulses. We're gonna pulse into the twist 10 times. 1, 2, and then gaze forward, and then I'm going to go ahead and come around. Now remember, we talked about in the workshop that if you twist one side or bend to one side. You want to neutralize or center your spine before you go to the other side. So let's go ahead and do that. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to separate my feet a little extra. I'm going to cut my elbows, and I'm just going to fold in the center. Breath to motion, inhale. Now you don't have to do 10 of these. I'm just going to do 5. I think that's 5. Okay, now we're going to go to the other side, all right? So I'm just going to turn around here. Yeah, just like this. And then I'm going to reach around, and I'm going to reach around. Now, it's not super important that you reach around a lot, okay? Just a little bit of reach is plenty. Most of the motion is happening in your thoracic spine, which is where the ribs are attached in your back. The lumbar spine really doesn't twist. Honestly, it doesn't twist at all. We could easily say that. So I'm right here. I'm going to press to lengthen. I'm going to look around the corner, and then I'm going to take a breath in. Stay tall. And turn. Inhale. Exhale. Each time I exhale, honestly, I think on any stretch, you can squeeze your belly. Now I'm just noticing each time I'm actually getting a little extra range of motion. And honestly, I'm going to try my darndest to count in my head while we're doing this. I'm going for 10. If I don't do 10, you know, go ahead and do an extra or shortchange yourself. Okay, so that's the seated twist, and next we're going to go to the wide leg fold. So I like doing the wide leg fold with the small ball. So I'm going to switch to this because I just feel like having a lower profile on this stretch is just makes me feel better, right? It's just my personal choice. So what we're going to do is we're going to get a nice long or wide-legged position, and I'm going to turn my toes back. I'm going to activate my shins. I'm going to press my heels down, and then I'm going to press into my legs somewhere, right? We're not reaching like this. It's not we're not doing that kind of thing, right? So we're going to make a nice flat back. So I'm going to pull my rib cage through, and then I'm going to gently press on my legs to lengthen my spine. And remember from the workshop, we're going to shine the heart. So I'll make sure my gaze is forward, my chin is forward, right? And my heart is shining forward. So the goal is not to round and heap down, right? It's actually to pull all these elements forward. So think about pulling your rib cage forward. So here we go. Big breath in. Exhale. Big breath in. Exhale. Squeeze your belly. Inhale. Now you're like, I can hear you saying it, but Dr. Dean, you're not folding. Well, I am. I'm folding very gently at the hips, and I'm little by little, I'm getting a little bit lower and a little bit lower. Increments, remember? Now I'm not trying to force myself lower. I'm just noticing that I'm becoming a little more pliable in the repetitions. And here's the last one, I think. Exhale. Good. Okay, so the fold doesn't require the centralization of the spine in between because we didn't do left and right. But I want to show you variation because I really love it. And it goes like this. So go ahead and turn and face over your leg just like this. Okay, place the hands here, press down to lengthen the spine, and then shine your heart, your chin and your nose and your gaze forward over your toes as you pull the toes towards your nose. Fold. Take a big breath in. Exhale, fold. Good. Big breath in. And I'm just going to do 5 on each side. Yeah, and then I'm going to come back to the center. I'm just going to do 3 in the center because we did do the side. So I want you to get in the habit of not quickly moving your spine from one side to the other, okay? And that does happen a lot in exercise or even in a yoga class. I'm going to turn over here to this side. I'm going to place my hands. I'm going to lengthen my spine. I'm going to draw in my belly. I'm going to gaze forward. See how I make that funny face? Gazing forward. Yeah, and I made you smile a little, didn't I? And then here we go. Fold. Inhale. Exhale. Draw the belly in. And then I'm noticing on this side I'm quite a bit tighter. One more. Good. And then we're going to come back to the center. Remember, to centralize the spine. It's not just between, but it's also after. And I'm just going to do 3. Yeah, wide-legged fold, okay? So I'm just going to make a quick comment, and that is that some people are like, oh, what is that stretch for? So remember, like we said in the workshop, that a stretch isn't for one specific muscle. It's always a group of muscles, and a stretch may even cross the midline of your body. So it might start in the upper right and end up in the lower left, okay? So we talk about those as slings, but muscles, you know, usually are working together as a team. So the whole team is going to kind of get lengthened all at the same time. Okay, so there really aren't stretches that are specific to one muscle, and I'd kind of say most of the time we wouldn't want to do that even if there was. Okay, all right, let's move on. Next one we're going to do is the genie fold, and we did the genie fold actually in between our seated twist. Okay, so here's the genie fold. So I'm going to switch balls again. Going to come on the big one, okay? And so what I'm going to do is sit pretty much on the top of the ball. Now, I kind of like to sit on the back of the ball, and you can kind of see I'm sneaking the ball underneath. It's kind of underneath my hamstrings now a little bit. I'm just going to sit pretty far back here on the ball. So it's just a little bit of a different experience, okay? So I would say I'm kind of on the very top of the ball, like the north pole of the ball, maybe even a little bit behind. And then I'm going to cup the elbows just like this. And I'm just going to shine my heart forward and my gaze, and I'm going to start to turn my pelvis. Yeah, so I'm just going to break away for a second. And what I'm doing is I'm actually lifting up the back of my butt. Some people call this like cheerleader butt or something like that, right? I'm lifting up the back of my butt so that my pelvis will rotate down. The pelvis is in the shape of a bucket, and we're kind of pouring water out of the front of the bucket. Maybe you've heard that before. So let's come back to the genie, okay? And I'm going to start to turn my pelvis, and then I'm going to come up a bit, breath in, exhale. I'm going to draw my navel in really, really tight. And remember, the gaze stays forward. Big breath in. Exhale, fold. Big breath in. Exhale, fold. And you'll notice I'm maintaining that really nice flat back. Exhale, fold. I totally lost count now. Big breath in. Exhale, fold. Let's do 4 more together. Okay, breath in. Now I want you to notice I'm not rounding my back, but I'm also not pulling my elbows to the floor. This is pretty loose. Inhale. Exhale. I'm really getting some depth now. Increments, right? Exhale. And then one more. Big breath in. Exhale. Yeah, now I kind of like at the end of genie to just release my hands and gaze down. And I kind of like to see if I can kind of tuck my shoulders in there. And now I'm going to really look up, and I'm going to really start to flatten my back. And I kind of like to wiggle the ball a little bit side to side. Yeah, that's called play. We're playing now, right? So we're just kind of making this up. Like, oh, that feels good. Let me do that. Oh, let me draw a little circle. That's kind of fun. Let's do that. Oh, let's go over here. Let's do another thing like this. Yeah, okay. And then I'm going to just put my hands here. Now, because the back has been flat a bunch, just going to kind of help it come up. Just like that. Wow, that feels really good. Okay, so that's the genie. So the next one we're going to do is going to be the overhead side reach. Okay, so I'm going to keep the large ball. Just kind of reset here a little bit. Okay, so we're going to sit on the top of the ball, and I'm going to take a little bit wider stance. I'm going to get a nice long spine, right? So start all of your stretches. I'm going to say like full attention, right? Don't set up your stretch soggy, right? So remember, all stretches, just like every exercise, just like sports, kind of like anything that's about movement, everything has a setup, right? So you want to make sure that your stretch is set up before you start. All right, here we go. So we're going to press to get long, okay? And then we're going to reach up. And this time, I'm going to show you a little bit variation, hand on the hip. And what I want you to do is press the ball to the side, but pull your knees apart. Did you see that? Let's watch again. Push the ball over to the side with your hand, but push your knees apart. And then I want you to start to tip and gaze up, okay? And then come back. So I'm actually taking my spine and bending it sideways. I'm not just reaching over, okay? So what we're trying to do is get the rib cage to rack. It's called racking, rack your rib cage. We're gonna rack the rib cage over to the side. Okay, that's the bit about the hand. Okay, so hand on your hip, gonna reach up, get nice and long, and then press your knees apart, start to roll the ball, and then round your rib cage, right? You see that? Big breath in, exhale. Now I find that if I kind of gaze over to the side like this, I told you I'd close my eyes, I kind of feel like I get a bit of a bend, and it's less strain on my neck. Big breath in, exhale, press. Now make sure that your knees are being pushed apart and your knees aren't following the ball. And let's just take a moment here on our inhale to reset the wrist higher. 2 more. And last one. Good. Now, we did do a side bend, so we're going to just do a quick fold, okay? So we can touch the shoulders if you like, and then we can just reach forward. Breath in, exhale, breath in, exhale. So we're neutralizing our spine, kind of resetting it back in the center. Good, just 3 or 5 of those is plenty, okay? And then we're gonna start on the other side. So I'm gonna set up, hand on the hip, and then I'm gonna press up, get nice and tall. I'm gonna reach my arm over my head, and then I'm gonna gently push the ball, my knees apart, and I'm gonna bend and push my rib cage over to the side. Doesn't that feel great? Now it's such a small move, right? And you notice we're not forcing anything. We're just creating a nice shape. One more. Yeah, and let's come back to the center. And so I'm going to change the stretch again for the center. So we're kind of always doing something new. So why don't we go ahead and straighten the legs out to the front. And we're going to take the hands like little sleds, and we're going to slide them up and down the legs. Shine your heart. Good. You don't have to pull your toes up. Exhale. And then just check on your back and make sure it's flat. One more, because it feels so good. Yeah. Okay, let's come back to the center. All right, did you like that? Okay, it didn't take too long. A couple of my favorites. There are definitely plenty more. They're also a little bit more advanced. Now, when you're done, I want you to either move on to the next one, which is the lying series, or you can use this also as an interval. Okay, so go ahead and do 5 or 10 minutes of cardio if you want, and then come back to the stretch, right? So you can use this to kind of, I wouldn't say like a HIIT program, but you know, in between bouts, you could also, you know, do some weights or something, some elastic bands. You could go for a quick run. You could do some nice vinyasa on your mat and then come back to the stretch. So just a couple of ideas for you. Dr. Forrester Dean, and I will see you on our next stretch.